Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, as we get situated for the first 5 minutes of this. We'll let you guys get ready, sign in, and we are live on YouTube. So we're going to let people filter in. And I also want to give a great thank you to everyone who has worked in this class. I know you guys are here. It's the end of the semester, and we have this final thing, this opportunity for you guys to demonstrate what you have worked hard on. Let's make it a celebration of the work. We'll have some fun, and don't worry. We'll be right there. All right. And we're off after the first 5 minutes. And I think we're excited. So what we're going to do first is just make a new session. We're going to jump off where we left off last class, which was session 8. And we're going to make a new session. We're going to call this session 9, which will be the last session of this course for this semester. However, this is going to continue. We might do some work on it during the summer, follow-up, kind of stuff like that. And very much encourage comments in the chat. I encourage comments from our students at the BAC in Boston and comments from our students online who have also participated in this course. So let's create that channel there, a whole blank environment for us to play around in. And I'm going to let our group of students, our group of workflowers, as we've come to know each other, introduce themselves here. So feel free to introduce yourself, guys. Jerry, hello. Good to see you. I'm very excited to see that the chat is active now. We have some of our people in the chat. We have someone from Fargo, North Dakota. Big call out there, my alma mater, go Bison. They have a question already, which I'm going to propose. This is not the question we're going to start with, guys. But the question is, how many workflows could a workflow work if a workflow could work? So I want you to ponder that as you guys introduce yourselves. Whew. All right, let's make sure everyone checks in. Victor, Matthias, Becker, looking cute as always. Banan, hello, I'm here. I give that one. Fernand always has the best comments, but sometimes I get a little nervous. Nicholas, thank you. Smash that subscribe button. Let's get everyone following us. Let's see, what is that? Should we do a check for that one? Yeah. Fernand also looking fabulous today. Oshi, I think I've seen you use this before, or maybe someone else. Welcome, welcome. Waving, waving. I don't even know. We're on a boat. Should we just put some shrimp? All about shrimp, right? Bubblegum shrimp. There's a giveaway, Matthias. I didn't know about that. I think that's up to you. Money bags for that one. All right. All right, we're gonna let you guys just continue to spam this as we join here. So let's move session 9 up to there. And just going to check on one or two things, because we are broadcasting this not only live on YouTube, but also in a couple of classrooms around the BAC school. So that's kind of fun. It's part of our mixed reality campus. Here, there, everywhere. I will be right back. All right. This is quite fun. I'm going to do my best to keep up with everyone, looking at the comments, stuff like that. What we're going to do next is we're going to ask a question of our workflowers. Mike, welcome. So if anyone would like to propose a question in the YouTube chat, please go ahead. Propose that now. I'm going to think about a question. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick off this session 9. Now, in this class, after midterm, we started creating these sessions. And each session was kind of a way to investigate what we had done in the first half, which is all these different workflows, all these different kind of things that we investigated. We're moving backwards in chronology here. We investigated many different tools, many different pathways. We looked at things like processing at the beginning. We looked at Rhino, Revit, Grasshopper, Dynamo, Autodesk, generative design a little bit, generative design in other programs. And then we also just looked at a bunch of stuff we can find on the internet. As we know, a lot of this stuff is developing. And so we decided, or maybe I decided, to make sure that once we did an investigation through different things, we'll come back to some of these topics, but we investigated what kind of basic geometries might be using that might work well for these things. We investigated different influencer operations that we could use. And we talked about those individually, and we'll go back into those comments. I encourage our group to dig into the Discord archive, post link to comments, all that kind of stuff, as they will be interacting with us in various ways throughout this. So then after midterm, kicked off session 1 with a bunch of different topics, moved on to session 2, and that's when we started developing files that we would use as a group, sharing those files back and forth the week in between classes. We worked on those files, and here it became less about files and more about a single file that we worked on. Again, we were voting as a group, talking about those different things. And by the time we hit session 4, this is the first time we started to align on something we wanted to work on. And that was this flower tower, this twist, which is when we started naming things. So we have a version we see here. We have the next kind of session 5, which we titled the claw, a very interesting combination. Session 6, where we see this kind of interesting void, still tower-like. We titled this snakes on an XY plane. Session 7, moving into twisting and stuff. Again, we're working on these projects during class and in between class together. And moving away from all the independent work and moving into this group work, I think really started to solidify what that workflow is. And today I want us to focus on, again, explaining that workflow, going back through the workflow. Here we really started to do dress rehearsals for this go live. We have this multi-helix layer 1, which we've shown a lot as we broadcasted this event. And then we ended session 9 or 8, I'm sorry, let's not jump the gun, with this. And now everyone should make sure they download the files, multi-helix layer 1, rename those to untitled, which I'm going to do as well. And I'm going to propose a question to our workflowers, and that's going to kick us off in session 9. So let's see if there are anything in the YouTube chat. It doesn't look like there is right now. I'm going to think of what that question might be as my group gets ready to respond to this question with some screenshots. And this is what our question is. What is the most intriguing part of the workflow we established? So we're going to propose that here, and we're going to give them a chance to respond. While they do that, I'm going to come back and we'll go through some of the other basic geometries and influencer operations, and then we'll check back in the session 9. And again, I really do encourage everyone that's online and watching, 15 people watching on YouTube. Again, we have our class, and we are broadcasting to a decent amount of people at the BAC, which I'm going to go check on. So please respond, guys. You guys know the drill, as we have rehearsed this many times. I'll be right back. All right. So as we're giving our workflowers some time to respond to that question, I just want to go back through some of the stuff we've done. We have all these videos here that we looked at different things. And then we moved on to this idea of what are the basic geometries that we're working through. We talked about arcs. And in those arc conversations, we went through kind of simple things. We were actually using processing for this. And we looked at just like, how does the code work? What can we do visually with these things? We dropped into Grasshopper pretty quick. And again, here we were just looking at the manipulation of different terms. A lot of this stuff I'm going to scroll through. People can ask questions, but the point is not to get into all the details of everything, but to get an intriguing view of this. And by the second half of this session, we are going to build something together. We're going to build a brand new, never before seen structure. Here we talked about ellipses. What is the difference between an arc and an ellipse? How could we use that for different parts? And we also talked about some other stuff. What did we talk about? Meshes here. This was looking at a lot more like built things, less kind of expressive or artistic in nature. Here we see actually forms with these meshes. We see some really kind of crazy things pop up by using that mesh-based work. And what else do we got? That's where we see a lot of structure. Then we also talked about surfaces. And I'm intrigued. I don't know why exactly we started with this image. We'll hear more about this stuff as we move forward. But what is the difference between a surface and a mesh? How can we manipulate those? Do you start with them? Do you end with them? Things like that. I like that we were going back into different programs at the first half of this. We still see some processing stuff going on. And we also see a lot more of what is the relationship between the Rhino environment or the Revit environment and the visual programming environment. From there, and I see some stuff happening in the session 9. So I'm excited to go check what people are posting, what our workflowers are posting. We looked at influencer operations, and here we're talking a lot about what is the influence, what are the inputs and the outputs, how are we using that work plane? We kind of used a grid and then manipulated those grids, those circles, those arcs, different things. We had some interesting influencer operations. For example, number of sides could be an influencer that we are using and discussing. We also have shifting distance direction. And here it was more about not the number of things, right? But what direction are they moving? How could that change things? We have a varied rate thickening happening here. This, I think, was a little bit more aligned with a lot of the surfaces going on. And then from there, we had some other things going on. We have this one of my favorites, flip back reverse redux. And we had lengthy conversations about what that means. And I'm pretty sure we had a fun party when we were working on that. We were working pretty hard, listening to some Missy Elliott. So with that said, I'm going to jump us back to session 9. And this question from our group, and our group should be prepared to start getting past the Discord interactions, which I want you to continue doing throughout the time. But we want to start talking about this question, lend our voices and our videos, our lovely faces. So what is the most intriguing part of the workflow we established? And again, if anyone wants to follow up to something, there's a delay on our YouTube live, but if anyone wants to follow up, please put it in the chat. All right, we have this screenshot from Matthias, which looks pretty intriguing. We're going to come back to that because I want to read some of these out here. The most intriguing thing is the ability to generate multiple design options by simply providing parameters in which to operate in, hence the name generative design. Jerry, thank you. the most intriguing part of our workflow is the different parameters that are established within the Rhino Grasshopper programming. Victor, the most intriguing part of the workflow is how extra parameters added to the workflow can lead to ever more complex shapes and forms. Adjusting the input variables can refine the resulting form even further. And Ayushi with this very exciting GIF, which I'm trying to figure out. The most intriguing part of our workflow has been the ability to think beyond and as crazy as you can, and also have the ability to generate designs that are controlled yet not controlled. Our workflowers know that if we post a screenshot, it gets priority. And it also means we might jump onto their computer and see what they're doing. So we are going to go to Matthias first with this screenshot. And we are going to switch this over. And Matthias, would you like to talk to this? And here I'm going to have you make sure you grab that mic. No worries. That's right, if you want to fix it in a sec.
But I could speak to the screenshot real quick.
Yeah, can you make sure the mic is a little bit closer to you?
So, just speak to the screenshot you're all seeing down with the what's highlighted is the relevant item sort of function, which is going back and directly to that divide curve here. And those points that are highlighted on the left side of the screen are sort of. Gotcha. Those points that are highlighted on the left side of the screen are where the curves on the outside are divided, and the relative item and the subsequent line function are linking two separate points, as determined by a sort of like list, right? They're sort of itemized, or what's the word, indexed, and subsequently, like the point 1 connects to point 2 on the following curve on the other side of the curve, with this wrap paths and wrap item function, creating these lines right there. Can you see my screen at the moment, or is it just the screenshot? No,
it's just a screenshot, but are you ready to?
I am.
All right, let's take a look.
So if you can see, that's pretty much where I was here. This divide curve, right, is the same points highlighted here, and this relative item, but this point 1 that we've indexed into the offset creates these lines, which then indexing here in the relative item and feeding here to create these lines here. So if I were to change this note here, say to 0.3 or +3, it should change the shape here of what we created. And then if I go into a rendered view, for example, oh no, that changed this shape here quite dramatically. I believe if I were to edit this again, say +1 was what it was before, right? It changes the shape, it changes these. So I thought this was a really interesting point where it's creating the exterior geometry from these lines right here, at least for the sub D. And I thought that was a really critical point in the workflow. All of these, I think, groups have their own like sort of merits, but I thought that was a really important base layer, so to speak. And that kind of just speaks to the sort of flexibility of what we're able to create within Grasshopper going forward. Sort of we're able to pull very simple geometries here, you know, dividing curves, right? It's not a very complicated task. Creating these curves is not a very complicated task, but together and like flowing, pulling from one step, just adding very simple steps, you're able to create a really dynamic, really flexible, and really sort of fun set of geometries really quickly. So if I just do +8 again, for example, right? It's a very simple, but it makes, you know, this actually very cool symmetrical star shape. Yeah,
Thanks.
No worries.
That's great. Let's look back at Discord and see who else has something to say. All right. I'm actually going to go, we're going to jump to Nicholas in a second here, who I believe is ready. But before we do that, I'm going to ask some of these questions that don't have screenshots ready. And I think what I want to do is I want to go to Jerry next. So Jerry, are you ready to suggest what this is about? What's important there?
Sure. So the idea of generative design is the ability to create multiple iterations using essentially mathematics here to produce all these types of iterations. We set up parameters to be able to influence our geometry to stay within the realm of what we want it to be, but then give it the ability to be able to create and generate multiple options for us to review.
Cool, thank you. Hey, Mike, did you want to jump in on this? And we're all getting ready for me to just comment. Just wait till I start searching in the Discord, which will we'll find some random thing that'll make you guys talk to. Mike, go ahead.
Hi. Hey everybody. So I guess based off my comment, like I was saying, there's different parameters that are established from the beginning until the end of the programming in Grasshopper. And piggybacking off of what Jerry was saying, yes, they are really mathematical programs that are established based off of polygons, which is towards basically the beginning of the programming. And then exploded into different sections and frames that construct basically the end result. I'll stay there.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
It was great. Real quick, Victor, you're up next if you'd like.
Oh, okay. Should I share my screen?
If you are ready to share your screen, you can. You're also welcome to turn your camera on, but we understand that not everyone has that ability.
All right, got it. Give me one moment.
All right. I think while you're getting that ready, I'll come back to you because I want to go to Ayushi.
Oh, all right. Sure thing.
Yep, and then I'll come to you, Victor, okay?
Mhm.
I also see Ayushi's camera on. Ayushi, go ahead.
Hello. I think I loved what Matthias just shared with us about the key point in the entire design process, and I'm just experimenting with those options right now to see what different shapes and generative design options that we can create.
Cool, thanks. Victor, do you want to show us what's on your screen in response to that or follow up on the conversation? Great, go for it. And Victor, if you're talking,
There you go.
perfect,
Can you
thanks.
hear me now?
Yep,
All right. So from my Discord comment, like for example, the input variables were like these ones here, and originally for our final shape we had a pentagon, but I changed it into a triangle. So these different variables, input variables, can greatly refine the form. And then of course we can add further parameters on, like previously I added a twist command to one of our sessions, and that changed the overall resulting form.
very cool, thank you, thank you. We're gonna go to another comment, and we are gonna have more discussions later. Let's see, who should we go to next? I believe that we want to go to Nicholas next, and I'm gonna give this a comment while Nicholas gets ready to share. You ready? All right. So what's up? Why are there like a bunch of things on this screen? Everything else before we've looked at, like, it's just been like kind of one option, right? So what is all those different things? And I think you might have a different direction to go in, but I'll let you share the screen. And then 1 second. Make sure you have the mic as well. And go ahead.
So basically what I find more interesting about this is that we could generate different iterations of the same model at once. For example, right here I'm showing we have like 10 iterations on the right in a sub-D geometry and 10 iterations to the left in a mesh geometry. So that's something that could help us to create different options for our design.
Yeah. And while you leave the screen up here, Becker, can you respond to that too? You posted an interesting comment on Discord there. And
The one right after Nicholas's.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a different interpretation of what I was saying, but as I like pulled up the my own, actually, can I share my screen, Nicholas?
You can. Well, let's ask Nicholas. Okay.
Yeah.
And Becker, also, if you want, you can turn your camera on, but we understand that might not always be possible.
I appreciate that. I will not be turning it on right now.
Ooh, look at this. We've just ventured into this wholly different world of Mac Rhino, right?
Yes, we're in Mac Rhino right now. Can you see my Rhino or my Grasshopper?
We can see your Rhino.
Awesome. Okay, so this is kind of like a baked version of what Nicholas had done because I thought it was easier to see how the shape is changing over time, which is somewhat a version of my comment, which is basically like how the manipulations that we're applying can take something as simple as a rectangle or polygon, and the more you manipulate it over time, the further away you get from that initial shape. And something that happens when you're doing a generative design flow or creating options for multiple parameters, at least in the one that we have created, it gets increasingly complicated as you move from one iteration to the next. You can see the surface increasing in complexity and depth, which I think ultimately I changed the parameters a little bit, but that is how we got to something as complex as this from something as simple as a 5-sided polygon, and in my case, a 4.
That's really interesting. And we have this lovely thing. Actually, Becker, do you have Discord? Can we see that maybe at the same time as what you have on your screen?
Yeah, let me bring it over.
Yeah, because I want to jump to some of these other things we're showing in the chat. And I really, while Becker is doing this, I really encourage us to realize that we are doing this live, right? And we are going to work in these files live. So we've been doing this in class a lot. Everyone watching is seeing how we ran the second half of this class. While we weren't always talking or on Zoom, like with our faces, we were on Discord a lot. We were sharing things, looking at different content and getting a lot of inspiration. So like we see, Becker, can you react real briefly to like Ayushi's post? And then we have this post from Fanan. And then I think we'll also come to Fanan later to see what's on her screen. Go ahead, Becker.
I'm doing it. Can you not see?
No, you're good. Yep, sorry. I'm saying,
Okay.
floor is yours.
I'm sorry.
The floor is yours.
Oh, I think I shared what I wanted to share.
Okay, are you more interested in Ayushi's post or Fernand's post?
Oh. I think Ayushi's, because it talks about how like we can push a file to its extremes.
And let's
So-
leave the screen share there and let Ayushi respond.
Oh, so yeah, I think I was just experimenting with Grasshopper. I love the tools that Grasshopper has to offer. Let me share my screen. And with each time you try something, anything that comes to your mind, like you want to have colors, you can find something like that. So this was an attempt to actually manipulate the form and go back to the reference of being able to control and at the same time not able to control. So this is the tool, which is the bend tool, and I kind of experimented with the existing mesh that we created here. But what it really does is it's twisting, but it's also bending, and those two are two different things. And I just inputted the values, which is just a simple geometry, and then the bend angle or the bending arc as how do you want to see the bending happening, and it creates like these multiple of variations to it, as one can see, with different angles. There's a problem with the BAC. I cannot really split the screen even if I want to, so bear with me here. But these are really the different options, and then the radius, so you really can see the unfurling and curling and bending going on with the twisted form.
Great. Now, I have a little bit of a concern about like what you're doing here because of these like crazy spikes that you've crafted. Now, the concern is not that it's not well done. It's just, wow, we went really crazy with that, right?
Yeah.
And I also think that like Becker's comment on Discord here, this file, dare I say, can't be tamed. I think it's great.
Right. I mean, I'll let me try taming this thing so that it acts more of as a connector, let's say, between the two design options that we have.
Yeah, and let's go and talk about these feathers. So Fernand, I'm going to give you the chance to talk here. Thank you, Ayushi. And let me switch this over. And there we go. Fernand, you posted this, right? And you also posted this screenshot, which I'm going to open both at the same time. But why did you post these?
So I posted the first one, which is more of like what the workplace in like Rhino and Grasshopper, kind of me just playing around with these kind of counts and stuff like that, like how much can these the difference and like the manipulation of points between all of those iterations can change based on like the numbers here. But on the left was kind of my response to Ayushi's model, which is basically what I see in her is that like these kind of pieces that extend like separately but connected at the end, which kind of reminds me of like, wings. So I just thought it was interesting, like adding an aspect, like it, so the whole form is kind of one, but then she would manage to separate all those like points to create volumes that extends from the main one, which kind of looked very interesting to me.
Great. Do you want to share your screen?
Yes.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Yes, and yeah. So this is currently what my quiz looks like. Honestly, this looks like a dog face right now, but that's just me. But yeah, so I went to an extreme with this one. I just like kind of, so I think it was like 20 and I switched it to 400 just to see how like extreme the change could be. Which kind of what happened here. You can see from like this side, which is I think this is the sub D. It changed, but like it's somewhat, so you can barely notice it from one to another, whereas this one is like a huge change. Which I thought was interesting. I think it relates back to like the series here and which one you manipulate to kind of manipulate which side of the the points. So yeah.
And there's this, whatever direction we have that model orbited, right? There's the left side and the right side. And I really like that you've said it now looks like a dog, right? Or something.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll find some pictures on Discord that you post later. And I want to encourage everyone too that's here, both our group of Workflowers and anyone that's in the YouTube chat, to start to suggest what things look like, right? To post about that. So if anyone has an idea of what they've seen there, I'm also going to come to some questions in the chat in just a couple of minutes. But the left side of this and the right side of this, and can you go to this, like, we're looking at smooth mesh, right, Fanan?
Mm-hmm.
And we have another one which is driving the other side. So the smooth mesh, and if you click on that, right, we see that that's all happening at that center point there. And then if we move further down the workflow we developed, we have these different parts. Could you just talk a little bit more about that? Or even say like, actually, I didn't really understand this part that much. And we'll throw it to one of our other Workflowers because we did work on this as a group, right?
Yes. So I think I'd rather give it to someone else who explains it a bit better than I do.
That's cool.
So anyone would like to contribute?
And let's jump back to our Discord here and take a look at what our group has to say about that. So, group, what is the difference between using the left side and the right side as we proposed? Why did we decide, or what happened when we were using, what was it, sub D surfaces as compared to meshes? Is that appropriate? And anyone can jump into this conversation, so please go ahead. Between sub Ds and meshes.
What's the difference?
Yeah. Why did we have the left side and the right side expanding from the center? You ready with this?
No.
Oh,
Okay. No.
anyone online? Ayushi, Mike, Becker?
From what I remember, we separated them out in order to understand how sub D and mesh, like I guess, responded to the code differently. But I don't know if we ever answered why that difference occurs and like what about sub D versus sub mesh inherently makes them respond differently.
Becker, what was happening? Like, I just typed mesh, right? And you posted some things back in the chat. Thanks, Fernand, for this little Batman thing. But Becker, what was happening here?
I think that's when I started to explore adding sub D to our mesh explorations, whatever week that was in basic geometries. I played around with sub D in non-grasshopper ways, and from what I understand, it's created as a more fluid form of surface building versus like a traditional poly surface. And so I was curious as to how the code would respond if I used a sub D control within it.
Cool. And I also want to note, Nicholas, you had posted some of this content. I'm going to grab some other content too. Can you talk, because you, I think, to some degree had a problem with some of this stuff of like layering these like surfaces on top and all that things. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the script, we have been trying to create polygons with the line, with the curves that we obtain connecting the points on the script. But we found a couple of discrepancies inside the script that the software was not able to show it because it turns into conflicts. And the answer to the question before that is that the difference between sub-Ds and meshes is a geometry composed by triangles. So that allows us to create more organic shapes than we could do with the sub-Ds.
What happened? Let me see. There we go. You remember this?
Yeah, that was an exercise that we made in Grasshopper, then we bake it, and we took that geometry again in Grasshopper to make some subtractions, and we were just playing around the script, experimented what we able to do or not with Grasshopper.
Cool. I also want to look at some other really kind of weird, crazy things that jumped out here. It is still based on some of this, but we had a lot of claw images that were going on. So I'm going to search for this idea of the claw. Oh, we just talked about it at least once or twice. Actually, I know that Matthias has some work I want to show and move here because in your posts, you were commenting on this claw. So let's look at this and let's jump there. Matthias, it's very similar to Nicholas's, right? But what's going on in this image there? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, if I can recall here. So this was what I was highlighting was the way that different geometries were being lofted. I think that the actual formation of the poly surface between these curves and how the surface itself kind of self-intersected, I believe, in the middle. I think that's what I was kind of pointing towards. And sort of the construction of the frame around it, deriving from the different geometries along the curve. And I believe it was the curve that had that loop or sort of kind of hook shape. And it refused to go across the XY plane, I think. I think that was an issue we had where that we were having difficulty getting into I guess it'd be like the quadrant or I don't know what it is in 3D, but the section below crossing sort of the XY plane there at 0. So yeah, I don't know.
And how did this change things? And we're also going to ask kind of Becker about that post. And then I also want to continue asking Victor about this post. It's similar to what we saw with this wing, things like that. But before we move on, Matthias.
Yeah, so when Becker showed this ghosted view here, it sort of reinforced, right, more clearly the ways that the mesh seemed to start, or the mesh, I believe this is the mesh, right, not the sub-D, seemed to be sort of like wavy and like hard to deal with and not very smooth, right? Like this is taking a lot of computational power, it seems like, and is kind of erratic, like towards that one side here towards the end where it's like sort of hitting that XY plane again. It seemed to like not enjoy that, and it kind of moved us towards simplifying our workflow to something that'd be more manageable to work with in the future. to like be able to further evolve the project. Because it was getting to a point where while it looked cool, there wasn't a lot of room for progression. It felt like, or at least I felt like, I don't know how our other work flowers thought about it.
Nice. Thank you. I want to stay on some of this stuff in Discord here. This was an introduction here to a kind of different materiality. Actually, I remember when we created this, it messed with the files because of the way it was visualized. And I want to point to, right, what is the difference here between seeing something in the Rhino environment on the left, right, and kind of the display of that, how much is being displayed, and seeing the graph on the right, which is the Grasshopper environment, and seeing those batteries or those nodes there. And there was a question in the chat. I'm going to use that to also go back to Becker, and then we're going to move to Fernand, and then we'll probably move to some other online people. But the question in the chat was, you know, what is the difference between using Mac platform and using PC platform? And maybe, Becker, we can also talk a little bit more about like showing things, visualizing things like that.
Yeah. So the biggest difference, I mean, there's some like slight command differences. But the biggest thing I notice is that if I download a Grasshopper script that someone else has created online, or, you know, some sort of extension, a lot of the time they're not compatible with Mac and they've only been made for a PC. So that's like my biggest limitation. Otherwise, I find that the computational power, or I guess just like my ability for my computer to keep up with my programming is, I mean, this might be controversial for PC people, but I think my Mac is a much stronger machine.
Becker, what about this?
This kind of goes back to us talking about tightening up our parameters. So similar to what we were saying before about how that one file seemed to get unmanageable, or we didn't necessarily understand how our number sliders were manipulating the form itself. I wanted to create a more, I guess, clean surface to iterate from, so I could understand how the numbers were affecting the surface, or how the number slider manipulation would make changes to the surface. So I could do so slightly more informed.
All right, now we're going to go back to something like this. So, Victor, I'm going to encourage you to talk about what is going on here.
Oh, all right. So in this, I added a additional parameter to what we previously had created, and that twists the entire form along a certain axis. And then like this was the resulting form that you get.
And you worked with, I remember we were talking through, you were kind of challenging some of these things when we did this. I'm actually going to jump here. We see this, we're in the same session. But you were challenging some of this stuff, right? Like, what could the form be? How might that change? And using that different form, how did we get forms, like a language where you could easily control that? And maybe also, if you have a chance to show something, or anyone else has a chance to show something on their screens, let's look to that as well. But go ahead, Victor.
What do you mean by how do we get forms? Like how is the form actually created?
Yeah, how the form is actually created, or, you know, this idea, okay, yes, we've been working with something like a flower tower, right, or a tower of sorts. That's a very vertical dimension. But what if we want to change it to sweep or flow a different direction, right? How did we get a real clear, easy change to happen?
So how we created the forms was we started with like the 2D shapes, and then after we were satisfied with the complexity involved in the 2D plane, we like added like a loft command to actually make that 2D form into like a 3D form. So, and then with this twist command, that takes the 3D form and then, you know, just twists it along an axis, and that's how it stretches everything out. depending on the axis that you put it on.
I also want to take this opportunity.
Should I share my screen?
Oh, yeah, if you're ready, please go ahead. We'll come to Mike after this. A couple of his posts are related, but Victor, go ahead.
So I tried adding it to this form that we had by sticking it onto here, and then let's see, if you change a slider, it does crazy things to the form. And distorts it.
Wow,
And like
that is
breaks the
chaotic.
shape, basically. Yeah.
Mike, how do you feel about this? I can see your concerned look. You have to be concerned.
Like if you
Yeah,
put
it's
smaller
different.
numbers, you can see
Different. It's definitely a different parameter. Feels like those two are actually connected. Yeah.
And I know we're intrigued, but I also want to show a couple of things here. So, Mike, some of your posts, right? We were looking at some of this. I remember the moment when we kind of simplified. You were like, "Hey, what if we do something like this?" And I think that it was also this moment where we had posted this, right? And how did we get these two separate towers? What happened there?
Yeah, the two separate towers were based off of that curve that was basically one of the parameters of the program in Grasshopper. Let me see. I could kind of share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay. I think someone else is sharing their screen. That's why I can't do it.
Go for it.
Okay.
Also, will Ben Bernard, thanks Becker and all of us for the comments about Mac Rhino. And yeah, go. We can see your screen, Mike. Looks good.
Okay. So does everybody see the Grasshopper and kind of like Rhino screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so on this screen, I guess, with the Grasshopper, we have the curve that kind of determines the shape of the overall outcome that is being programmed. And for this to happen, we go into the Rhino and set up any curve, and once we do that, we can output that curve into that program, which then, based on basically the overall let me see. Yeah,
Yes.
so based on the rest of these parameters that we've gone through is the end result that we get here with this one curve.
And here, Mike, thank you for showing us this because it's a very different method of input, right? Instead of suggesting that the input is numerical or a set parameter within measure, right? That it goes from 0 to 50 or 75 to something else, or it uses like what Matthias was showing us, these kind of toggles, plus minuses. Here, it's actually a curve, right? It's a curve that is drawn in Rhino. it is logged in Grasshopper, and that is supplied as a guiding factor. And I do think that's really, really important here to see this happening, and to see it happening kind of in the middle of our workflow. Some of the stuff we did earlier on was very much a relationship to like, oh, I want to do something, right? I have this idea in my head. And I think as designers of the spatial world, we do have a lot of those thoughts. Why can't I just make it look like a lightning bolt? Yes, from the YouTube chat reference to Harry Potter. But how can we get a little bit more expressive or easily expressive with this? And as soon as we introduced that curve, actually, I think this was inspired to some degree by Ayushi. I'm not going to have her talk about this, but I want to call attention to when we were defining these towers, and we might look at some of that work on Discord there, where it was just simply kind of making and arraying shapes into space. Ayushi, I think, had proposed a separate solution, and as soon as we learned that we could bring curves in, it changed things. Now, what we see on screen here, and I want to go to Victor next. I'm sorry, not Victor. I looked at the wrong place. Sorry, Victor. I want to go to Jerry next. Jerry, I think you have some things to comment on here, and Mike, keep your screen active. But Jerry, what do you think?
So, sorry, let me make that screen bigger. So with the loft node highlighted, are we speaking about the loft there?
Yep.
Yeah, the loft is essentially taking the line work that was created in the Rhino and making a surface between those lines there. You can that you can see on the left side of the screen.
And let's see, I'm going to go back. Let's go back to see what we can mine from Discord. I'm going to see what you had. Jerry, why do I keep doing this? I got no, there we go. This is right. Yes, this is your work. I want to find something to talk about that kind of brings us in a different direction. And actually, I want to talk about this.
Sure.
And I know here we have this, what was happening in the top here, right? Why do we have this collection down below? And then these things separated out. And I want to leave what's on the screen here. This is another important moment in the class where we started to discover different ways of handling this stuff. So what was happening here, Jerry?
So we were doing a random kind of placement of those rectangles within that square of X's that you can see on the screen there. And also a random sizing of the rectangles themselves.
And was this, and I just want to check back on our session 9. Oh, okay. Some more inspirational images. Yes, thank you, Matthias, for this galaxy, I think, is going on.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was in reference to Victor's I believe changing sort of like the sort of planar look whenever he changed the parameters. It kind of looked like a whirlpool. So that was what it was in reference to. It wasn't random.
Thank you. Fernand, would you like to say anything about our V for Vendetta image?
Yeah, it's a reference to Michael's model, which is about basically following that V pattern, like the whole like the model that follows that curve, which is like mainly a V. So that's what I got as a reference.
Thank you. All right, now I have one or two things I want to go to. We are going to take a break in a bit here and then jump into our actual working session where we try and build something as a group. Before I do that, does anyone in our group here want to talk about something that they believe I have missed? So the mics are open, and also if anyone has any questions for us, please post them in the chat. Now I'm going to prompt us as well with one of our videos, which is this influencer Dynamo and Revit. I'm going to prompt the discussion because we are primarily looking at, actually, we're going to open this up and make sure my voice doesn't play. Oh, look at, I had yellow on that day. So what is the difference between Dynamo and Grasshopper? Okay, any one of us can answer this question here. And why would you use one or the others? I believe Nicholas is ready to answer that question. Go ahead.
So basically, Dynamo is the script language who talk with Revit, and Grasshopper is a script that works with Rhino.
1 second. I don't think we can hear you. Try it again.
So I was saying that Dynamo is the script language who's speak for Revit, and Grasshopper is the similar version for Rhino.
And you've asked me a couple of times about integration with BIM. So like, I think at some point you were actually upset. You actually said like, really, is this what we're doing in this class? But like, why would we try and integrate BIM? We struggled a lot when we were using Revit to Dynamo because we had to define what those elements are.
Yes,
Go
in
ahead.
Dynamo, like every geometry that we create needs to be related to a Revit element, like wall, floor, roof, or any other BIM element that you could create in Revit. And Rhino is more flexible because we just create shapes and other geometries.
That sounds good to me, unless anyone else in our group wants to add to the conversation.
Dynamo is more, it speaks about the building information system. So everything has to somehow relate to a building element, whereas you have a lot of other flexibility with Rhino or Grasshopper, which can be just any surface. It does not necessarily need to be a building information.
Right, and that's this flexibility, I think, creates a very different mentality about how you're working on this computational thing, right? I think here, when we use Revit and Dynamo, it very much becomes a computational workflow that is revolved around the building elements that Revit proposes, right? And actually, Ayushi, I'm going to pull up some of your work. Oh, you have your double login account. So we'll see which one we find. They're not that one. Because you did do a bunch of tower design earlier on. And I think as a group, we definitely thought that they looked a bit more architectural. So we have some of these images here, right? And I think we also started with some of these images, which you did, I don't know, did you do this in Revit Dynamo or Grasshopper Rhino?
It was Grasshopper and Rhino.
And I like this image, it's interesting, but I think this one became an inspiration for us, right?
Right, yeah, it did. And I think at the same time, we see it as an architectural piece, but it can easily be a product. So it really is open to interpretation. And that's the beauty of the software.
Got it. Now we're going to leave this on the screen here. And anyone can answer this question. Let's go back to session 9. And thank you. We can see Jerry has also proposed something. You guys can also say things in the Discord chat if you want. I want to bring some questions here from the online people. And we have a question that says, hi there, Drew is saying, just wanted to ask some questions about this course in general. This is an advanced computational course. Can you clarify your definition of computational design? I have a definition, but I want to go to someone else online first. And here I'm going to ask for either Becker or Victor to clarify what they think we have done with computational design.
Go for it, Victor.
So should I say what I think computational design means?
Yes.
All right, so I think computational design is using software like Rhino or Revit, right? And using their add-ons like Grasshopper and Dynamo for like a parametric design where you can like have different variables and input them into different parameters, and then you can generate different unique designs out of that using like computing power, basically.
Nice. Anyone else? Online group, jump into that. And I actually think that, so Drew is saying a couple of things on YouTube and talking about like, where is the intentionality? Is this investigation for the sake of investigation, right? With computation, I very much have seen computation used for direct results, right? I actually, the word computer, right, used to be a person that was operating and running computations. So some of these questions on YouTube, I think are really relevant, right? In terms of like, what is the intentionality behind what we're doing here? And we do see a lot of investigations, whether they end up like looking like something that we name, or whether they end up kind of being resolved and figured out. Now, with this, back to session 9, and this idea of computation, what are we computing and what is going to be our goal for today? And that's as we move forward. So as a class, I want us to think about this. What is our goal for today? What are we going to push forward? And how are we going to start from where we left off on session 8 with our multi-helix layer 1, and then move that into our session 9. So we are going to take a 10-minute break now. And then we're going to have a full hour to build something together. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks everyone for the great participation, and let's get ready to build stuff. All right, and we're back. We're back to the very exciting part of this, which is to actually build something together as a class. Again, this is what we've done over and over again for the second half of this semester. We started working on it as a group. We named things. We are going to name this again. So the first thing I'm going to do is take where we left off, again in session 8 here. And now we have all this content, this discussion from session 9. We'll see if we maybe go with some of these arcing, separating, wings, designed, things like that. Good job. Again, feel free to post stuff in the Discord session 9 for our work flowers. And feel free to post on YouTube chat if you would like. And let's take a look. Let's stop this crazy turning thing. Oh, look at that. I paused it right when it aligns. That was pretty good. That's a good. Take a snapshot and post it. Take a snapshot and post it. All right, so I'm going to save as, and we're going to save this as untitled for now. Ooh, let's see. Untitled. I don't know if I spelled that right, but at this point, I don't really care. And we're going to save this. Oh, let's save that as. It's also giving our work flowers a chance to get ready, because while I will be operating our primary workflow here, all of them will also be working in the background. So we might see what they do. They might go a different direction. Okay, so everyone ready? Yes, we are ready to go. All right, the first thing we want to do is let's delete this. Now, let's take a look at what's in this file. And should I just delete all this? Right now, I have everything turned off. We turn on that. We can see where we left this. We have the various objects, the left side, the right side, depending on how we have the thing viewed. And we have what we finally produced there. So we're going to delete that out of there. And we're going to not show the entire script at the same time. So we basically have a blank option. I'm going to do this preview only selected geometry, and we're going to run through this workflow as a group. And so we start here. In our workflow, we started with a polygon, and we're going to see what that looks like. We exploded it. Actually, we should do this, and then we have this. So this is the start of the workflow. And the first question is, what can we play with? Well, we have this radius, 260, and we have number of sides of 5. So as we remember, I do not make decisions. It is up to our work flowers to make those decisions. What should we set this to? Who would like to be bold enough to kick us off?
That's the 6.
What was that? You want to go with it, Nicholas?
Let's start with 6.
Okay, we're going to start with 6 here. And does anyone have a problem with 6? No?
6.
6 it is. What about this radius? Should I make it bigger or smaller?
Let's go a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger this time?
Let's go a little bit bigger. I'm thinking 400.
Okay.
Seems like a fun number.
Now I saw some mics start to open. Does anyone online want to also talk about this radius that we're setting?
Maybe make it 500 or 1,000.
All right, so 400 works. Let's also put that to 500. No, let's go with 1,000. Let's be a little more with it. Let's see if we can actually do that. Oh, we have it set to 512. Okay. Why did we set this to 512? If I right click on this and go to values, we see that the minimum is set to 1 and the maximum is set to 512. So
That's our original frame.
Original, yeah. 1024.
Yeah, so the diameter would be 1,024, and that was the original. Our original bounding box was 1,024 by 1,024 square.
Yep. So we did have a site at the beginning.
Vestiges of a past long gone.
Oh, so you also said that that's what we started with, right?
Correct, yes.
All right, so we're not going to move this further. And the reason why is A, we define things early on, kind of back to like Drew's comment in YouTube chat, like, what is this? Just craziness? It's not exactly what he said. I'm paraphrasing, but we did make some decisions. And while I made a decision of 1024 by 1024 by 1024 as our boundary, because Instagram likes pictures that are 1024 by 1024, and I had every desire to spam all of this work over Instagram, that became basically a site. So for this, unless anyone here has any concerns, we're going to go back to 400 as our radius. And I think we're going to move on. So let's follow our workflow path down to our next thing. And we have this, which is defined the curve that we have then moved here, which we've exploded. Again, the importance is that we created a polygon. We've set that polygon to be a radius of 400 and have 6 sides. And then we explode that polygon into segments. And that's the difference between this and that. And then we're using those segments, which is 6 different segments, which are curves, to investigate what's happening here. All right, let's take a look. Who wants to describe this? Gary, do you want to go ahead and help guide what we're doing?
Yeah, so we have a perp frame node on the right side, and we have our curve, a curve feeding into that. And if you zoom in on the left side on your Rhino screen, you can see that we do have some planes that were created along those lines there, and those number sliders can influence how large, I'm sorry, how you can move them around along that line work. So for example, the first slider will move an X amount of distance along that line.
Yeah, and I'm noticing here that every time we use, a different kind of version of Rhino or a different computer, we actually switched rooms for this. The graphs on this are really small, so it's kind of confusing where these perp frames are. This is easily changed by preview plane size. I think we all learned that. Oops, I missed. I think we also had a moment here. Let's set this to 200. That works. Come on. There we go. And there, that looks a little bit better, would you guys say? And I'm going to turn this to shaded so we don't have the Arctic there. All right, so thank you, Jerry. Someone else, and I forget who recommended we do 3 number sliders here, right? And some of these change certain things, and we'll kind of scooch those around. And some of them change other things. Who remembers why we added 3 instead of just 1?
Is I think it was because of the planes. There was 3 planes. So in order for them to change, basically shift, we had to do the 3 sliders.
Yeah, I agree. And I also want to go and check on what's happening over here. So Fernan posted, thank you, Mike, by the way. Fernan, you posted this, yes, which is a preview of what's going on. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so because of what I kind of played around at the beginning, where I kind of played with the values from the smooth mesh, my values are kind of different from what you have. So when I played around and kind of put the new, like played with like the number slider and stuff like that, it kind of squished it and kind of, so now mine is kind of looking like a pomegranate.
Can we see what's on your screen?
Yes.
Let's take a look.
So hold on, share. So yeah, because of this part, which again, I kind of, I wanted to go to like big numbers like 400, 200, 100, stuff like that. It kind of changed what like the meshes look like. And so when I went back and changed this whole parameter kind of changed and it's starting to get thicker and thicker as it goes this way, which is kind of interesting. It's like super complicated now. It also has like this pieces that are like kind of sticking out, which is really cool.
I agree. I think it's really captivating. And I'm not exactly sure how you got, I mean, you have everything turned on, right? So I'm going to go back to our current shared thing, but I do like that you guys are testing things out. And let's see if anyone, okay, yes, that is definitely an appropriate response there. Thank you, Fernand. All right, so here, I want to highlight, unless someone else had something to say. Becker, did you have something you wanted to add?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry, I saw your mic was off and I got excited. What I wanted to add here is that we, first of all, just broke this. I'm going to turn off this selection mode and we're going to see what that looks like. Okay, so this is what we created. Wow, that's exciting. Yes, and we've broken this module here. And I think it was because of one of these is extending beyond, it's one of these two, I'm guessing down here, and that the number is extending beyond the length of the segment. Now, that became problematic. We had it working before, but we added these two additional sliders, and that was to create two differences. And this is where we can start to see how lists work. So let me drop these down and try and fix this. There we go. So now once we get below a certain point, that fixes that. And now we can start to see a bit more if we crank this all the way to the left side of that, and we watch our thing update. This is live, and we hope not to crash this. But we can adjust different parts and pieces of our design, where some of them kind of extend outside of the thing. There we go. We see this kind of part move very drastically on the right there. We might see something shift over here. And let's see, what do you guys think? Are we okay with where we're at? And we're going to make our decisions only based on this, what we're looking at. Anyone need me to change anything before we move on to the next? I'm going to ignore the chat on YouTube right now, but that's okay. I do appreciate open discussion. Thank you, everyone who is chatting on YouTube. All right, we're going to move on to the next part here. So what we're passing through is we're passing these perpendicular frames or planes over. And so that's these planes that we see and we've created that are perpendicular to the original polygon, and they can move along that polygon. So then as we pass these over, we're going to take these things and we're going to move that away. And that's controlled by this. And we're using 3 sliders there as well. So if we kind of change some of these, we can start to see those frames, and I'll unselect this one. And then we can see the point here is that planes that are originally there along that are then shifted and moved out. So there we can see that they move out based on values here, and we push these out. So who wants to define one of these 3 numbers? Anyone? Our work flowers?
Maybe let's go low. Well, for the first one, how high can we go?
So first one, Becker,
Yeah.
and then right now we're at 268. Should I just max it out and you can guide me on where we might want that to be?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of us making this bigger than what we had before. So maybe we just max out all of them. What if we max out the middle? What does that do?
So let's max out all of them. Also, I might have heard something over here. I think Fernand might want to participate in this as well. Fernand, if you have something going on your computer like you did last time, let's take a look at that. Matheus, you might have had something as well, but let's max all these out. Becker, if you break this, I'm going to blame you, but don't worry, you won't fail because this is an ungraded part of the course. All right, so this is what you want.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
All right, let's see what happens. And here we're using this kind of selection only part of Grasshopper. So I'm going to disable that, which is then going to load the preview there. Ooh, that's very different. Is that what you expected, Becker?
I guess so.
I mean, with
Yeah.
that, we pay homage to our work flowers.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Gary, what do you think?
I like it. Like I said, it pays homage to our name here, work flowers.
It does. It is very flower-like. I'm just going to crank one of these back because I want to like illuminate how this changes, and we want that to update and be responsive. We also have a lot of lines that we left there. Ooh. I'm so nervous this is going to fail, but it's not. All right, what did that do? That there we go. So there we can see this part right over here move inside, right? So if I kind of put this to the middle of this slider, it's going to minimize that petal. We could call this a petal of the flowers. I very much believe, ooh, looks like we might have broken something there, but I very much believe that, nope, there we go, it updated. I believe that it's our use of kind of GIFs, GIFs, images. No, it is GIF. Is it GIF? GIF? All right. Our use of that in Discord really helped to guide us through a lot of different things and aspects. And I think that really helps with computational workflows, is to start to assign things to it, assign what you're thinking about, because you can get really lost, especially when you just look at maps, grids of content like this. All right, let's go back to Discord and see what's going on. Okay, thank you. This is very helpful in clarifying what's going on, Fernand. I appreciate this. Does anyone want to show what's on their screen right now? Fernand, are you ready?
Oh, I was kind of just suggesting a number when I talked, but
All right, let's take a look though.
that's
What you got going on. And do you have the mic with you? It's close to you, but it's up. There you go.
yes. Yeah, so it got more complicated, I want to say. It started off as this one being simple, this one somewhat different. Now the change you can see is really like the thing is getting bigger and the form is getting bigger, and then the pieces are getting also like more disformed and stuff like that. Yeah. So I did max out this one. I haven't yet changed the other number sliders, but you can tell that it's getting really crazy.
I like it.
Oh, I like crazy. I didn't mean it as a bad thing. Yeah. My favorite for now is like the second one. It's kind of in the middle. It's pretty cool.
I like that one too. And that's getting back to this idea of what we've called is generative design. Yes. And that's, we did this layout there so that we can see the different iterations, right? And you can get really bogged down in just looking at one part of a computational workflow. right? But by looking at everything all at once, this is similar to Autodesk has a lot of generative design tools where you say, I want to do 100 of these. I want to do 1,000 of these. And then you do your inputs and outputs, and it starts to show you which ones align. But that visual aspect, right? Are we creating something that could actually exist in the world, or are we still pushing it towards something that is imaginative and, like Fernand said, crazy,
Yep.
which she likes? At this point, I want to encourage anyone else in the Workflowers to share their screen and show what they have created. Anyone in the room with us want to share what you have going on? Nicholas, you ready?
I can go.
To you next, Yushi.
Mhm.
And Nicholas, can you try now?
All right, passing the torch.
And
Okay,
go ahead, Nicholas.
so let me give me a second. Let me bring Grasshopper on. This to the same screen.
And Ayushi, you'll be up next. Now we're excited to see what you got going on. Also, just commenting on our time for us all to remember. I think we got about 20, 30 more minutes of work time. And then one of the most important aspects, which is naming whatever we've created. Nicholas.
Okay, so yeah, I modified the sliders as you were showing before. And these are the iteration that I have here. So you could see here that one of the circles got bigger right here. And this is creating like the description on the model right here.
Very cool. Ayushi, what do you think of this? And then we'll use that to move to what's on your screen. Also, Becker is clapping for you, Nicholas. Ayushi, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying out a different thing. Are you okay with me sharing that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. What I kind of did was I tried to the geometry that we had. I tried to kind of populate with more points on those geometry, and then started connecting them with those points, and then was like building on from there to manipulate these connections. But yeah, it was
Okay,
something.
let's linger on this for a second here. I think this is pretty exciting. And I think it's because you're looking at it with only something highlighted. Yes. Talk more
Yes.
about what is this thing highlighted over there next to the perp geo? Like, I think you've actually changed some things based on
Yes, I did. All the geometries that we had from the iterations that we had, what I tried to do was I wanted to manipulate each one of those options, but then again get into like the smallest point form of it. And so the idea was to like get points on those surfaces and then have different points, and then I just tried to connect them into straight lines. But yes, I'm still figuring things out, but I think this was something that if we want to talk about could help.
I think it's great. I really do. I'm really excited to see this kind of move away from what we have. If anyone wants to comment on that, go for it right now. Otherwise, I'm going to move us on. Cool. Thank you, Ayushi. Let's go back to our shared work and where I'm at, which looks cool. Maybe not as cool as yours. All right, so we're right here. Let's see, guys. Are we cool? And remember, you guys can talk in the Discord, which I can see. So are we cool with either this like maxing out of everything, all the pedals fully maximized, or do we want to make a change?
Can we go back to, can we confirm the perp on the previous sort of section, the sliders we have set there, just so I can catch it up?
Yeah, so in this previous section here, we have our sliders set to 205, 144, and 377.
Okay. Perfect.
And I welcome this. Matthias is asking, we're all kind of either unlike different for what I usually did, which is to go differently. Now we're saying, let's get back to the same point and change other things. Actually, I think this is a really interesting moment, right? Doing this live in front of everyone, seeing everything change. I would love at some point for us to see everyone's screens all at once. Maybe a later live session there. So we'll leave this here. I'm gonna make a change on this because I do want just a little bit of diversity there. And then we're going to take a look at how that influences the next part. We'll let it load.
Can you zoom in into the last number?
This one that I'm modifying, right? So we got this one, 210, 483, and then 512. Actually, I'm interested in this lopsided shape.
I like that.
Cool. All right, let's move on. Here we have just kind of some, let's look at what we got going on. Then we have this move, these things, they're moving out. And then what we also did is with those points is we're creating this arc. So it's basically taking a series of curves and points. We take that original thing, the start and end of those. We add the third point there, which is then moved, translated, those perpendicular frames, and that creates the arcs. And then we want to divide those arcs that we've created, and we divide it by a certain number. And what this does is it then creates this amount of kind of complexity, chaos. We're not sure if it's good chaos or bad chaos yet. It's some kind of chaos. So what should I do this at? And let's drop this down so we can see it at a very low amount when we divide this. And let's watch that update. But high number or low number? And I'm going to ask one of our online participants, maybe Victor or Jerry.
We could try maybe like 15, 10.
I would recommend maybe a lower number, just so we don't crash our computers with a lot of line work or points.
Great. Okay, so we're using Victor's suggested 15. Jerry, you feel good
Perfect.
about that?
Yep, that's good.
Let's move on. We're moving a little bit quicker here. In our workflow, we kind of talked about what's the difference between the start, the middle, and the end. We're right about in the middle. And this next part is, I think, pretty intriguing because what it does, Matthias was talking about this a bit earlier, right? Changing some of these values, I think, where we have this +1, this true, and this is where we're taking lists of points. I do want to very quickly take a look at what's inside this. We use these panels a lot, and our files were pretty complex early on. So in this is a whole series of points that we're generating here. And we're throwing that over to this tree, and then we're selecting relative items based on that. And the relative item is defined by this +1 within these. What did we end up calling these? Squiggly brackets, curly brackets.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and they're very like particular to the way they behave. This is actually one of our like introductions to how code works, is that something like this gets sent over. This then creates those connecting lines here. I'm gonna get rid of these panels because we don't need them anymore. But is there anything we want to change on this? I don't even know what we changed this to. Matthias, did you?
When I was
Yep. Can we get the,
So we
And,
had it
yeah.
at +1, right? If I see correctly in the board, it's still +1. I have it in my file actually right now at +8. But really just, right, I think it's connecting different parts of so if we can go individually and see what looks coolest, I think the changes shouldn't be mega crazy, but like there'll be unique different geometries within the line work.
all right, so if I have this at +8 and I'm gonna do this, and then we use this as +1, I don't think we've done this live yet. I think you had actually suggested, we've done a couple of attempts with this, but let's swap this out and see what that offset value changes. Okay, there's one value. And then there is the other value. Ooh, all right. Anyone else want to suggest a different value for that? We have +1 and +8. I believe what this is doing, and of course, if anyone knows an answer or wants to troll me in the YouTube chat, please go ahead and describe it. I believe this is saying that based on that tree of points in the list, it's going to offset from there at +1. So the next list item, +1. And here it's going to take the 8th item from an item and connect those, which is why you see a difference. All right. Do we want to do +1, +8, or do we want to do a different number?
Can we do a secret third thing just to see, like if we turn it up to like +20, is there some sort of consistent pattern with the geometric sort of output?
All right, so we want to try +20.
Yeah, just try.
All right, I'm nervous. Oh,
Okay, yeah, so no, right? Because what I noticed with the +8 is that the hexagon sort of shape on the exterior was a little bit wider. So is it loading?
yeah, I believe it's loading right now.
I didn't realize it was this heavy of a change. My bad.
Well, I did it.
That's,
Go ahead,
that's
Mike.
kind
what's
of,
up?
I'm just saying, I think that's kind of parametric to the number of kind of points there are within that curve, within that arc, right? +8, +20. So it depends how many curves there are
Related to the number of segments that we create.
Yeah.
in order for that to be offsetted. And then does it go back to the first curve, count off from there? Let's say there's 10 points. And then if we put +20, does that mean that technically it's going to offset 10?
Let's see. Nicholas, did you have a response to that?
So this is related to the number of segments that we said that want to divide the curves.
Yeah.
Someone else talking? No.
No, you good. Keep going.
Again? Or more?
Say more.
Okay, so I'm not sure my screen. Could you go to the 15 number on the slider on the left?
Yep.
So that's the number that we took to create the number of segments that we could create dividing that curve. So if we change, we just have 15 points. So if we go 20, it will be the same as changing to 5 because it's going back to the beginning of the 15 segments.
Yes, I believe that makes sense. And while I'm like, we kind of discover things and we think things are the right way, actually, all of us, I think at some point have like thought something was happening. And then as a group, we came to understand it a little bit better. And a lot of that came through us changing these things and looking at different stuff, right, throughout, looking at what each other had like seen and developed here, and also comparing it to reference images. Like a lot of this work we were doing, we're working in parallel. All All right, we're getting excited about these parts, but we want to move on. Let's see. We want to stick with what I have on the screen.
I tried changing my axes. Yeah, I've been frozen for a while, so but that was like in the beginning of the programming.
All right, so Mike, you're saying we're gonna wait to see if anything happens. You're just frozen, and maybe it'll just
Yeah,
create this massively beautiful thing at the end.
or maybe you're not. I don't know.
All right, sit tight, everyone. We'll see what happens on Mike's screen. Okay, so moving to our next part over here. Let's see, we have some stuff going on, and that is this. Ooh, all right. So who wants to talk about what is happening here? Anyone? Someone from the online group. Let's explain this. Actually, Mike did a good job, but I'm going to have Jerry explain what's going on.
Sure. So if we start with the first node with the curve, the one that's right there you go. We drew this in Rhino itself, and we go into Grasshopper and we set that curve. There you go.
That's right. So it's like this. We just said, I want to draw a line, and I'm just going to make a line like this, right?
Correct.
And then over here, we said, great, I want a curve. And this is different than doing something like this, not curve, but like a line where we have this line. And that's a start and an end point. So this is a very different thing where we right click on it and say set one curve, and then we're going to set that as our curve. And
That's
here I'm
correct.
going to turn off our selection so we can see, whew, all right, we don't want that. All right, Jerry, go ahead. So what's happening here?
So now that we are utilizing that curve that we created in Rhino and using it now in Grasshopper, we are going to use that curve to then create a path that of all of the line work that we created flat in 2D into now taking it in a vertical direction, following the path of the curve that we created.
And what's exciting about this to me is that you can use and be expressive with a gestural drawing, right? This is when we started to investigate towers, and we'll talk about how we're moving things up, but you can very quickly swap out these curves. So if I just want to use this curve, which I've drawn, and you watched me move in space, this is an important moment that in Rhino, I can actually select these objects and use this move, the gumball, to move that around, a different inputting method. So I'm going to swap this out and we're going to see what happens. All right, just a great change right there. And I'm going to swap this one out, which is a spiral, which we've used. And importantly, the location of these things, the scale of them has a huge effect on the resulting form. And what I would like someone to explain next is how we get the form to extend into space like that, like this. So we have this divide curve where we divide it into different parts, much like we did before. Let's take a look at that geometry. So we're sending this geometry down here. And we're going to divide that curve. And then what is happening there? Who wants to describe this movement? Anyone on site? Matthias?
You know, this is a niche reference, right? But like, I don't know if you guys ever played Paper Mario, but this feels like those, like, because of the star shapes, like it just seems like, you know, like a very 2D, but it feels like hit points flying away or something, or little, like, I don't know. It seems like I was being creative with it. I don't know. I don't want to call it a twister or a tornado because we've already gone there before, but like, I don't know.
I'm getting your Mario reference. It's hitting for me. I'm
Nice.
just gonna find a picture, but it's kind of hard to find.
I would love to see some pictures, and I think we have some comments. Oh my gosh. Maybe that should be the name of the file. Ha ha ha. Massively beautiful thing at the end. Squiggly brackets. Thank you, Fernand, for always adding positive benefit to what we're doing. Okay, so good discussion. We'll look back at the Discord. Now there's one part I'm missing here, right? And
Wait.
that you still go
I
ahead, Becker.
feel like we didn't actually answer the question though
All right.
about what's happening. So
Yeah, what is that?
the curve being divided on those points, and then what you're seeing of all those different triangles or those like 6-sided polygons extruding is taking each one of those curves from the 2D shape and dispersing it among the curve along those divided segments.
Yes. And what's this last step?
That is taking all of those curves and creating a loft between them,
Yes.
where we got our macaroni.
Our macaroni.
I
That is a
just
very
realized
pretty.
that wasn't a,
All right. Sorry, Matthias, go ahead.
no, I just realized you were looking for a technical answer, not a visual description, my bad.
Well, that's all right. No, we always appreciate visual descriptions. I also like our reference to Mario Brothers there. And I want to go back to this. We were doing the fire tornado. We named this because we are coming up on having to name whatever we're doing. We also had this one, which I believe we called macaroni wow cheese. Very good. All right. So Becker, you're going to help me out in session 9 here. Whew. I don't know. Fernand's got something weird going on.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay, but here, let's okay, Discord, the trap of Discord. All right, what do we got? Becker, are we done with this? Do we want to use the spiral? Do we want to use one of these curves? What do you think?
I think we can use a spiral, but maybe we can like move it a little bit so it doesn't look like a macaroni.
All
Maybe
right.
edit the curve.
Sorry, say that again.
Maybe edit the curve itself.
All right. Let's see if I can do that. There's our curve. Oh my gosh. Why is it not there?
Or just, edit that one instead.
Just edit that one.
Yeah.
But I'm
and then
actually
switch it
curious.
up.
Why is it not there? And like, why can I select it, see it here like that, but it's not in, why can't I edit it?
Is it on a layer that's hidden?
Ooh, that's a very good point.
It's been locked.
It's been locked. So if I type unlock,
Just click the lock.
over here,
Nope, you can it.
in Rhino.
Yeah.
Where is this?
Go to standard.
And this thing. Lock, unlock,
Right click
I am.
and select the curve.
And I like this. This is a lot of what we did in class. Yes. I actually think is it,
You're in render view, that's why you can't.
oh, is it? No, there it is.
There we go.
How'd that happen?
What happened? All right. Someone wins a prize if they can post in the YouTube chat what happened. We're going to move on. All right. So, Becker.
Yeah.
We got this, and you're suggesting we edit that. Now, that's a lot of control points. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think you can rebuild that.
All right. So, we're going to use the rebuild, and we're going to rebuild this. Instead of 243 control points, we're going to rebuild that with 10.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And I am sorry. I'm just going to, oh my God. All right there. Units. Why? Because that's just how I know how to get somewhere. There we go. And I switched my computer, and yellow on white is just not a great. We're going to go with orange. I'm in an orange mood. All right. So now our selection is orange. I feel better already. All right, Becker, what do you think?
Just manipulate it so it looks yet less uniformed.
All right, so we're gonna pull some of this. Drop this. Oh, all right. Ooh, gumball. I'm also manipulating these. Ooh. Using the gumball. And what we're seeing is a response rate because it is calculating everything on the right here.
Which value do you put down, Rico?
I put 10 as the value. All right, there we go. That looks good. And let's see what we got going on. So we're going to deselect or turn off our selection only. And we're going to wait for Grasshopper and Rhino to visualize what Becker has created, right? Because this is all your creation, yes?
No, it's a co-creation.
Yes, it is a co-creation. Ooh, there we go. All right.
It still looks like a macaroni.
It still looks like a macaroni.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
And we don't want it to look like a macaroni.
I don't think so. I think you can manipulate that curve a little more intensely
Okay.
or make it look not like a spiral.
More
That's gonna
intensely.
take too much time, but
We can do just half arc or something.
mhm.
Arc. Okay. Banan, talk real quick. And then Ayushi, you're going to guide me to an arc, which Banan, do you have the mic? And then we're going to go
Yeah.
to the arc. And then we're going to make some real quick decisions because we are going to end in 10 minutes. All right,
Yep.
Banan.
So my comment was that the looks of it will probably change once we move along to like the next steps and the other, because we're gonna change the points. And like, for example, for mine, like changing the points would really kind of mess that shape up. And I don't think we have to worry about it that much, since we're actually gonna change it really soon. But yeah, because it's gonna deform the shape.
Got it. Thank you. And Ayushi, you're going to guide me next, I believe. I heard you say arc. And why I want to come back to arc is because arc was one of our basic geometries that we used. We were investigating, we had surfaces, right? We had meshes and we had ellipses and we had arc. So I do like this idea that we're coming back to this idea of arcs and how we might use those. We even used these earlier on when we were using processing as a programming language or a visual programming. This is visual programming and this is programming visually. I don't know. All right, Ayushi, what do you want me to do?
First of all, we need to decide whether we want to model the arc in Rhino or in Grasshopper.
And I'm going to decide on Rhino.
Okay, so then, yeah, you're gonna do that, and then you can choose the start of the arc.
And now I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's an arc. I'm going to turn off my display. I think we're just going to abandon that and delete it, which breaks the curves over there.
Mhm.
And we're going to
Mhm.
set this as our current curve, right?
Correct.
And then set one curve. That sets as that, as I believe I did, or maybe not.
Yep.
I did, yes. And we're going to take a look at what it looks like. Ooh, all right. Ayushi, how do you feel?
Yeah, that looks interesting. It's reminding me of something, but I'm not able to recollect the name of it.
Ooh, anyone? It's reminding me of something, but I don't know what it's named. Let's check Discord. We got some new snake. Thank you for that.
I love the snake in the tornado.
Is it reminding us? We have Nick, is it reminding us of a snake? or a tornado or a waterfall? All right,
I like waterfall if we rotate it.
if we rotate it, okay, so I'm gonna rotate this a little bit using the gumball here. And then that's gonna affect our, there,
Other way,
180
degrees.
that way.
Oh.
Ooh,
That's interesting.
that is interesting.
Didn't do what I wanted to do, which makes sense.
Should I do any other anyone else? And again, we got to move quick, but are we okay?
I like that.
We like it?
Yeah, it kind of looks like a hummingbird or a penguin or something.
All right, good. And our chat is going well here. So thank you, everyone, for posting what we feel this looks like. I am so very happy. All right. Let's move through these. Now, this last segment, and of course, there's so much we've done in this course. We can't get through all of it. Let's look at this without the selection preview on, which Drew has very helpfully commented in the YouTube chat. All right, here is all of our different options. Let's look at that. We have these options. So now we're not going to make any changes. What we're going to do is someone's going to help me decide if we want to go left or right. Let's minimize this and maximize this. And let's do this view. This is, yeah, it's fine. Zoom all extent. And what do we think? Should we go to the left like this or to the right? It's like a dance. We're at like a wedding now. Anyone? Left, right?
Can you show us the other direction?
Yes.
Left looks like it has more variety.
All right. Well, that's one vote for left. Anyone else? Left. That's a second, which means we're doing it.
Let's do left.
Left. Thank you. All right. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Who votes for one of those numbers?
7.
So it's 7. That would be this one. And I'm going to also do this, where we want to look at our grasshopper. We're going to push this over here, minimize that, and we're going to find grasshopper there. Ooh. Right at the end, Peter pushes things into weird places on the screen. There we go. All right. Number 7, and a very important moment is we have that side, and these are all those objects, and we need to bake this, correct? So we're going to right click and say bake to bake all of those onto our baked layer. And we have orange and number 7. That was the suggestion.
Yeah, that was mine. But
Okay, let's isolate that and take a look. It's pretty interesting. Anyone want to suggest something else? Or are we okay with this one? It's actually pretty, I think it is pretty captivating.
Big fan.
Big fan? All right. We're keeping it as this one. And now, for the last couple of minutes, you guys know the drill. Oh, I just typed into Discord. Zoom selected is not what I wanted to do. Zoom selected. Let's turntable that and look at this thing. And now you guys need to name this thing. So
can you
naming
deselect
is
it?
open. Yes, I can deselect it. Like that,
Yeah.
turntable. And there we go. So now, all right. And we're gonna leave my Z and S in there, and it is time to name things. Also, I'm happy to post anything from YouTube chat as the name, or the people in the other room can yell their names because they're right behind me right now. And they can hear me. Wow, you guys, you're really helping us out here. What I also think is very exciting is that as we look at this thing, I want to potentially fabricate this. I would like to create a new something that's kind of like this. You see back behind me, that was done when we had a residency at the Autodesk formerly Build Space, now Technology Center. And at the BAC, we are looking to get our CNCs up and running a little bit better. One of that includes a 5-axis. I'm not sure if Sean is still watching our YouTube. I saw him log in at some point, I believe. And if he has any comments on whether or not this is 5-axis CNCable, I'd like him to say it now, or maybe he'll tell me later when I ask him to do it. And again, guys, let's continue to name what we have created. Becker, do you want to just briefly talk more? Like 3D printing clay, can you 3D print in clay?
Yeah, you can 3D print in clay. There's a couple architecture firms in the Southwest that are doing like full scale buildings. They do a lot of really cool stuff. But for this scale, you can have like smaller tabletop 3D printers that will print clay for you, very similar to any other type of like traditional additive 3D printing.
Cool.
And there are a couple schools in the area and ceramic studios in the area that have them. So I'm sure if we wanted to explore 3D printing, we could find a way to do it.
Nice. Also, I just want to comment. This looks great, Victor. You guys can post things here. I'm sure there's a lot of crazy stuff on your screens. We have Killer Snake Cobra, which was also endorsed in YouTube chat. I believe there was maybe a suggestion for sock puppet.3dm. Not sure if we want to do that. Nope. Matthias is redacting.
Well, personally, I would guess it was file.
All right, and we just have 2 minutes left. So at this point, everyone, work flowers, you guys all get to vote. We vote by posting emojis. Ooh, Nicholas, nice post. So let's all vote for what we want to name this, and then we'll wrap up our live working session, which I believe has been very successful. I again want to thank all of the students in this class, everyone that helped. Good work, everyone. Truly, honestly, there's a lot. I don't understand why you're laughing at me. Oh, you're laughing at that? Wow. I mean, this class has provided me entertainment to no degree. I still go back onto this Discord and find stuff you guys posted.
Snake lashes.
Snake lashes. All right, do we have, let's look at this. We have some hearts, some hearty eyes. All right, did we vote? Wow, someone has a awesome snake there. I don't know if we have a decision starting to come through. We have this, which has the most votes, and it was posted by Fernan, and that means that Fernan gets to name this final thing. And so Fernan, the floor is all yours, okay? And I would like you to type what this is named. And 1 second, I would like the mic to be passed over. I think that we all collectively had decided that Fernan names everything we do. Fernan, what are your thoughts? bring us into the inner working of your brain.
So much pressure. So much pressure. Let's see. Okay.
We are all waiting on bated breath as Fernanda's typing. Diva snake to the end. All right. Right on time.
Awesome.
We have created, Fernand, explain this.
Well, the eyelashes gives it up, but I think I wanted to incorporate the end, as in the end of the class, to the name.
Ah, yes.
I think it makes sense with the snake and the diva with the eyelashes.
All right. This is the end of our working session.
Yep.
We are ending on diva snake to the end and the end of many people's degrees. Congratulations for those who are graduating. Also, potential apologies to those of you who are not graduating and get to deal with me. No. That's not what I meant. All right, it is now time to end this. So this is called Diva Snake to the end. Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna turn the mics off. We're gonna leave this here. People can post in the chat for another 15 minutes, but thank you. Goodbye for now. Everyone feel free to say bye if you would like, but this is now done.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Peter.
Peter.
Thanks, Peter. Good night.